David Shaw here with another off-the-record story. If you want to learn more about Washington, D.C., come visit my site, offtherecordtours.com. Let's go. I'm in the Georgetown neighborhood of Washington, D.C. today at the site of one of the great unsolved espionage mysteries of the city. This is an Ann Pizza. Before that, it used to be a Five Guys, but before that, it was a rather average French restaurant whose name I can't pronounce, but in French it meant the pig's foot. And it's here over dinner one night where one of the strangest episodes in the long-running spy versus spy games that the Americans and Russians played took place. But before we sit down to dinner, let's return to 1985 as the Cold War begins to wind down. On a July day in 1985, KGB Colonel Vitaly Yurchenko walked into the U.S. consulate in Rome and announced that he wished to defect. This sends red flags up at the CIA station there. It can take months and years to cultivate defectors, and folks who show up at the front door usually have a few screws loose. But after interrogating him, the CIA believed Yurchenko credible and put him on a plane to Andrews Air Force Base. And here's where things immediately go sideways. Yurchenko was met at Andrews by a CIA officer named Aldrich Ames. Unbeknownst to the US, and maybe Yurchenko, Ames was a Soviet spy. Yurchenko is taken to a safe house in Oakton, Virginia, where he starts singing like a bird. For years, the CIA believed it had a mole, or a double agent, in its midst. And sure enough, Yurchenko names two, Ronald Pelton and Edward Lee Howard. But after a month of almost non-stop talking, Yurchenko's mood turned sour. So,
what are we gonna do? Road trip.
Yes, an American road trip would reinvigorate Yurchenko, or so the FBI thought. So they took off to the southwest, stopping at the Grand Canyon, teaching Yurchenko how to play golf at Scottsdale, Arizona, visiting the Hopi ruins near Flagstaff, and in Las Vegas, the FBI even offered to provide some female companionship. Yurchenko said no. The trip did little to change his disposition. 3 months after defecting, Yurchenko was having dinner with his CIA guard here in what was then called Au Pied de Cochon. Midway through the meal, Yurchenko got up and told his guard that he was leaving and walked to the rear of the dining room. The guard thought he was going to the restroom. He wasn't. Yurchenko walks 20 minutes up Wisconsin Avenue to this place, the Russian embassy, which at the time was the Soviet embassy. At this point, Yurchenko is either as smooth as this guy,
Bond. James Bond.
or as clueless as this one.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
Yurchenko gives the Soviets a song and dance story how he was in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican when he's drugged by the Americans, kidnapped, and taken to the U.S. where he's held prisoner. The Soviets know this is all hogwash because they've been getting regular reports from their spies, Ames and Robert Hansen, about how Yurchenko defected and what he's been telling the Americans. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, the young and presumably soon-to-be unemployed CIA guard frantically calls the FBI to report that his spy is missing. The FBI comes out in force and pokes around Georgetown until 3 in the morning looking for Yurchenko. No luck. The next time the FBI and CIA see Yurchenko, he's holding a live televised press conference here from the embassy telling his kidnapping story. Soon after, he's put on an Aeroflot plane and taken back to Moscow. And this is where Yurchenko's brilliance, stupidity, or just plain luck pays off. Normal operating procedures for the Soviets in a case like this would be to take Yurchenko to the Lubyanka KGB headquarters and place a bullet in the back of its head. But the Soviets do that, they would be acknowledging that the information Yurchenko gave the Americans was true, because he was true defector. So, the KGB has to swallow hard and give their man a medal, which probably drove them mad if he was a true defector indeed. So the question remains to this day, was Yurchenko a real defector that had a change of heart and wanted to go home? Was his redefection part of the Soviets' plan all along? A trick to get the CIA and FBI into believing that Pollard and Howard were the moles and divert attention from the true moles, Ames and Hansen. We may never know, but the answer is in there. Vitaly Yurchenko would be in his 80s by now. He was last known to be working as a security guard in a Moscow bank. But long-time Russian observers say that the KGB has a long memory, and they would not be surprised that someday Vitaly Yurchenko was found floating in the Moscow River. Well, I hope you enjoyed that off-the-record story. If you want to learn more about Washington, D.C., things seen and unseen, arrange your tour of your nation's capital at offtherecordtours.com. Until then, I'm David Shaw.